Linda is a black nurse with a warm soul and a heart full of love. She has worked at the hospital for nearly 10 years, helping countless patients overcome pain and face some of the most challenging moments of their lives. Linda is a woman who always prioritizes patient safety and comfort above everything else. However, not everyone around her appreciates her dedication. Dr. Michael is a typical example of a racist. He is a white man with old-fashioned beliefs, never hiding his disdain for black people. To Michael, people like Linda are merely low-ranking staff, undeserving of respect. One particularly difficult morning, Michael decided to berate Linda in front of patients and colleagues over a minor mistake, even though it wasn't her fault. David, a patient recovering in his hospital bed, witnessed everything. He saw the disappointment etched on Linda's face, her sad and helpless eyes. David knew he had to do something. He couldn't let this injustice continue. David was not just an ordinary patient. His real identity was that of an influential figure in the anti-racism movement, someone with significant standing in the community. He decided to use this incident to fight against injustice and make Dr. Michael pay for what he had done. In the days that followed, David began gathering evidence, recording conversations between Linda and Michael, and reaching out to anti-racism organizations. He used his influence to organize a campaign, calling for public attention to the incident. Articles, television reports, and social media posts started appearing, speaking of the injustice Linda had endured. Initially, Michael paid no attention to the backlash from the public. He believed no one could touch him, given his status as a skilled and reputable doctor. But gradually, public pressure grew, and the hospital was forced to launch an investigation into the incident. Michael had to face accusations and take responsibility for his actions. Linda couldn't believe what was happening. From being someone who had always silently endured mistreatment, she now felt recognized and protected. The support and encouragement from those around her helped her regain her faith in justice and equality. David didn't stop there. He continued to use Linda's story to promote the importance of fighting racism in healthcare and all other areas. Talks, workshops on equal rights, and respect between races were organized, drawing large audiences. Eventually, Dr. Michael was forced to leave the hospital. His career suffered a severe blow, and his reputation was irrevocably damaged. Meanwhile, Linda was promoted to head nurse, a position where she could help others who might face injustices similar to those she had experienced. David succeeded in turning a small act of injustice into a larger movement, reminding everyone that racism, no matter where it happens, cannot be tolerated. And Linda, once someone who only knew how to silently endure, had now become a symbol of resilience and courage in the fight against injustice. As the movement spread, David and Linda became allies in the fight for equality. Linda began participating in community activities, sharing her story, and becoming a powerful voice for the marginalized. She was invited to speak at schools, hospitals, and social organizations, sharing her experiences and how injustice can be fought with courage and unity. David, too, didn't rest. He knew that Linda's story was just one of many instances of racism that happened every day. He traveled extensively, meeting communities and helping them develop action plans to tackle injustice. He and Linda appeared on television shows, sharing their message of love, empathy, and unity. One day, David received an invitation from an international human rights organization to attend a global conference on racial equality. He decided to bring Linda along so she could share her story with people from all over the world. That conference became a significant milestone, not only for Linda but for the movement they were leading. At the conference, Linda stepped onto the stage with her heart pounding. She saw hundreds of faces turn towards her, waiting to hear her story. Linda spoke of the difficulties she had endured. The pain of being discriminated against. And the helplessness she had once felt. But she also spoke of change, how one person's courage to stand up could make a difference. She spoke of David. Of his help and bravery. And of all the people who had stood by her. When Linda finished her speech, the entire hall rose to give her a standing ovation. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But they were tears of joy and hope. She knew that her story had touched many hearts. And she had done what she once thought was impossible. After the conference, Linda and David continued their journey. They had shown that, despite all the hardships and injustices, people could rise up and change the world around them. Linda returned to the hospital. But this time in a new role, not just as a nurse but as a leader and an inspiration. She formed a support group for healthcare workers who faced discrimination, helping them find their voice and defend their rights. David continued his journey, traveling far and wide to spread the message of equality and justice. He knew there was still much work to be done. But he never lost heart. With the help of people like Linda, he believed that one day the world would become a place where everyone was treated with equality and respect, regardless of skin color or background. In the following months, Linda dedicated her time to training and mentoring young nurses, especially those from minority groups. She held internal workshops to share her personal experiences, encouraging her colleagues to speak up when faced with injustice, and to build a fair work environment where everyone felt safe and respected. Young nurses looked up to Linda as a role model and found the courage to fight for themselves. No longer living in fear. Linda also established a scholarship fund to support medical students from disadvantaged communities. She understood that education was a key factor in changing mindsets and eliminating racism. The scholarship not only provided financial support but also offered counseling programs and career guidance, giving young students more opportunities to grow and thrive in the medical field. One of the remarkable projects David and Linda worked on was creating a network of activists and supporters of racial equality in healthcare. This network connected healthcare workers from different places, allowing them to share information, experiences, and support each other in the fight against discrimination. They also collaborated with non-governmental and governmental organizations to draft policies to protect the rights of healthcare workers, especially those from minority ethnic groups. David did not limit his support to Linda, he also expanded his activities to other fields. He began collaborating with schools and youth organizations to conduct educational sessions on equality and justice. Stories like Linda's were widely shared, not only in the media but also in classrooms, helping the younger generation understand the dangers of racism and the importance of compassion and mutual respect. A special event took place at the hospital where Linda worked. A ceremony was held to honor Linda for her contributions to the community and to the hospital's progress. The board of directors acknowledged that it was Linda's perseverance and courage that had changed the way people in the hospital treated one another, creating a better work environment where everyone felt valued and respected. During the ceremony, one of Dr. Michael's former colleagues, who had witnessed the change in the hospital, stood up to speak. He admitted that he had once harbored unconscious biases against colleagues of color. But thanks to Linda and the strong shift in the work environment, he had learned to see and respect everyone around him, regardless of skin color or background. Linda and David's story spread beyond the healthcare community and became an inspiration to many others. Movements for equal rights in other fields began to emerge, and many people found the courage to stand up against the injustices they faced in their daily lives. Linda and David knew their journey was far from over. Change could not happen overnight, and many people were still enduring discrimination. But they believed that, with each step they took and each person they inspired, they were getting closer to a fairer and better world. One beautiful morning, Linda received a letter from a young woman named Maria. In the letter, Maria wrote that she had faced many difficulties working at a small hospital in a rural area. She was treated disrespectfully by her colleagues and superiors simply because she was Latina. But after learning about Linda's story, Maria decided not to remain silent. She stood up, demanding fairness for herself and her fellow colleagues. Maria thanked Linda for giving her the courage to change her life. Linda read the letter with tears in her eyes. She knew that everything she had gone through, the pain and the injustice, had now become a source of motivation for others. She knew she wasn't alone. And that many people out there were also fighting for a better world. One where everyone was treated with equality and respect. David looked at Linda, feeling proud of what they had accomplished together. He knew they still had much work to do. But with determination and love for humanity, they would continue this journey, changing the world step by step. Linda and David's story is not just about standing up against injustice once, it is also a story of persistence, courage, and faith in the power of people. They showed that, with determination and unity, we can change the world and make it a better place for everyone.